Welcome. I'm Bishop Howard Hubbard, Bishop of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Albany. It is my honor and privilege to invite all of you to come with me on a journey of discovery, a journey to discover our amazing God. Over the course of the next 3 years, we will have the opportunity to explore our relationship with our God, whom we know as Trinity. We invite all of you on this journey, young and old and people in between, clergy and laity, people in parishes, and people searching for a community, people searching for answers and good news. All are welcome. Our intention is clear. There is no hidden agenda. As Roman Catholics, we bear witness to the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ and proclaim the good news of the gospel. However, we will not attempt to proselytize or coerce others to be Roman Catholic. Roman Catholics affirm the everlasting covenant God made with Israel and acknowledge the truth found in non-Christian faith traditions.
We reject nothing that is true and holy in other religions, and we regard with sincere reverence those ways of conduct and of life, those precepts and teachings, which, though differing in many aspects from one we hold and set forth, nonetheless often reflect a ray of that truth which enlightens all people.
We hope that this initiative, called Amazing God, will speak to the longings of your heart to build a relationship with God, to find a community of faith, and to help build God's dream for our world. In particular, I invite you to join me in this DVD retreat experience. You may wish to view this DVD in large or small groups and use the reflection questions on the DVD and on the website to process your thoughts and feelings with others. Or you may view the DVD in your own home and use the questions for personal reflection or journaling. In this first retreat, we'll spend some time together exploring the questions: who is this God who loves us? How do we experience God's love? And why does God's love matter? I want to thank all the people who will be sharing their insights and stories with us during this presentation. So let us begin in prayer. Gracious and amazing God, your love for us is greater than anything that we can fathom. We ask you to bless our time together and to bless all those who are participating in this retreat. Open our hearts and minds to your presence in our lives today and always. Amen.
Who is this God who loves us?
Please close your eyes and use your imagination. Who or what do we see when I say the name God? For many of us, people and experiences associated with love will come to mind. For others, images from art and icons of religious traditions. And for some, the name might conjure up negative images associated with guilt or punishment, or even violence, as we see with religious extremists. Where do we get our images of God? Most often, our initial images of God were influenced by our family, cultural, or religious upbringing. As human beings, we have built within us a desire or a longing for the divine, and we try to put this longing into words or images. But as we live our lives, we find that our longings are not satisfied by our first images of God. And so we continue to search, to question, and sometimes even to reject God in an effort to discover the divine presence in our lives. We will never fully capture the reality of God in the limitations of our human language and imagination. Yet we continue to search. St. Augustine once described this longing, this restlessness to find God. He said,
O God, you made us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you.
The esteemed Russian novelist Leo Tolstoy reflected on the limitations of our own images of God.
If the thought comes to you that everything that you have thought about God is mistaken, and that there is no God, do not be dismayed. It happens to many people. But do not think that the source of your disbelief is that there is no God. If you no longer believe in the God whom you believed before, you must strive better to grasp that which you call God. When a person ceases to believe in his wooden God, this does not mean there is no God, but only that the true God is not made of wood.
Our ancestors in faith, like us, were seekers of God. The stories of faith recorded in the Old Testament are truly an account of the greatest love story ever told. Surrounded by many different cultures of people who believed in many gods, the Hebrews had a very different experience of the divine. They believed in one God, who was the transcendent source of all life, but yet was as close to them as their own breath. Through Abraham and Sarah, God made a covenant, a promise to be with them and their descendants always. Through Moses, God brought his beloved people through their trials and tribulations as slaves and wanderers into freedom and a new land. Through their kings and prophets, God called his people together and gave them a purpose. And even when the people turned away, God was consistently faithful to his covenant and called them back to relationship.
I have loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore I have continued my faithfulness to you. Again I will build you, and you shall be built, O Virgin Israel.
Many images of God were used in the faith stories of the people of the Old Testament as they began to grasp the profound love of God. A favorite of mine is a parental image from the prophet Isaiah.
Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has borne? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands.
Jesuit Father Paul Catino, in his book How Big Is Your God, likens this image to having my name tattooed on God's hands. Ultimately, our ancestors in faith discovered that their God is love, a love that created all, a love that sustained them, a love that gave them a future full of hope, a love that would never leave them abandoned. As Christians, we too understand God as a God of love.
God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God in them.
My understanding of God today is much different than when I was a child. As a child, God was a stern judge, and the practice of my faith was mostly following a rigid set of rules and reciting memorized prayers. But it was through my father that I learned that I was gaining the foundation which prepared me as an adult to embrace a God of love and mercy. God transforms us within and without so that we can be immersed in the world, and God can reach out to us, through us, to transform our world and reach out to others in love and mercy. I have learned through my connection and through seeing everybody as my brother and sister and as one family of God that there is no more us and them. That is only we, and we are one in the person of Jesus Christ, who transforms all of us. Sometimes when I think about that, it blows me away, that God can actually use me and the gifts he has placed within me to connect with others and to help build the kingdom.
My understanding of God has been challenged frequently throughout my life. This was particularly true in undergraduate and graduate school when I was being trained as a scientist. Now, the scientist needs to establish proof for what he or she holds to be true. And this obviously does not work for faith, and it does not work for God. I have learned that God and faith are matters for the heart, not just the head. So I have come to feel that these are beautifully intertwined in the story of life, in the story of the universe. So I really feel that just the fact that we human beings want to understand the mysteries of life, the mysteries of the universe, this very fact shows me that we are made in God's image.
I have my doubts and questions about God, about why the things that happened in the world and the things that continue to happen in the world, you know, for example, just looking at like the whole 9/11 on a big scale, wondering how and where is God that something of that nature could happen and so much suffering can happen. And on a personal level, just some of the things that I've put myself into as far as either career-wise, and then seeing that it's come to a crashing halt, and seeing and wondering, where is God? Why is this happening? And is God even real amongst all the suffering that's taken place?
Well, as a child, a teenager, and a young adult, my image of God was that of an all-powerful, all-knowing, and holy Father figure, one who oversees the whole of creation, one to whom I would have to render an account of my stewardship on the day of final judgment. But when I was in my mid-20s preparing for the priesthood, I attended a retreat, and the retreat master offered a different image of God. He told the story of a little boy, 5 or 6 years of age, who was stealing an apple from the family refrigerator. As the little boy was closing the refrigerator door, out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of his grandfather standing in the doorway of the kitchen. He tensed up. He was sure that his grandfather would scold him severely. But the grandfather smiled and said gently, "Johnny, take 2. That's now my image of God, a God who says to us, "Take 2. Our God loves us totally and completely and unconditionally. Ours is a God who wants only that which is best for us, a God who seeks to walk with us at every stage of our life's journey. God has given us a plan of life, not, however, to enslave us or to curb our freedom, but in order to enable us to appreciate more fully God's love and to share it more selflessly with others. That's the image of God that has sustained and nurtured me throughout my priestly life."
Pause the DVD to reflect and discuss. What has been your journey to discover God so far in your life? Has your own childhood image of God been challenged? Have you found yourself questioning God's presence in your life, or even rejecting God in your search? Who or what has helped you to discover the God of love?